Elias Trent did not think of himself as a hero. He was a maintenance technician on Port Helios, a neutral space station that floated quietly between trade routes, like an old lighthouse that ships only noticed when something went wrong. His job was simple: keep the air clean, the lights on, and the corridors from falling apart. He worked long shifts, slept little, and spoke even less. That night, the station was quieter than usual. Most of the docking bays were empty, and the artificial lights dimmed to night cycle levels. Elias had just finished checking a faulty pressure seal when he noticed movement near the far end of Dock 7. It was not on the sensors. It was not on his task list. It was just there. Someone was crouched between two cargo crates. At first, Elias assumed it was a scavenger or a lost dock worker. That happened sometimes, but when the figure lifted its head, the reflection of the lights was wrong. Too smooth, too still. Elias stopped walking. The figure froze as well. They stayed like that for several seconds, staring at each other across the empty dock. Then, slowly, the figure raised one thin hand, palm outward. The gesture was careful, not a greeting, more like a request. "Hey," Elias said, keeping his voice calm. "You okay?" The figure did not answer. As his eyes adjusted, Elias realized what he was looking at was not human. The body was tall but slight, wrapped in a torn travel cloak that looked like it had been repaired too many times. The face was narrow, with skin the color of deep blue-gray stone. Large eyes reflected the station lights like polished glass. An alien. Elias swallowed. Port Helios allowed dozens of species, but none looked like this one. More importantly, no alien should be hiding in a cargo dock at night. "You lost?" he asked. The alien's chest moved in short, uneven breaths. She looked past Elias, down the dock, as if expecting someone else to appear at any moment. Her hand trembled as she lowered it. "I am not permitted to be seen," she said slowly, each word chosen with care. Her voice was soft, musical, and tired in a way Elias had never heard before. That was the moment he understood. She was not hiding for fun. She was hiding because she was afraid. Elias checked the corridor behind him. Empty. No security patrols. No station officers. "You're safe here," he said, though he was not sure it was true. At least for now. Her eyes widened slightly at the word safe, as if it was unfamiliar. "I cannot stay," she said, "but I cannot leave." Elias sighed quietly. This was how trouble always started. He should report her. That was the rule. Unregistered aliens meant paperwork, questioning, and usually relocation. But she was shaking. "Look," he said, rubbing the back of his neck.
"It's late. Station's on night cycle."
"If you want, you can come with me. Just for a bit. Somewhere warm. Somewhere quiet." Her head tilted, studying him. Aliens always did that when they were unsure, like they were trying to solve a puzzle that did not want to be solved. "You would offer this?" she said slowly, "without trade?"
"Yeah," Elias replied.
"No trade." She hesitated. Then her legs gave out. Elias barely caught her before she hit the floor. She was lighter than she looked. Too light. Her body felt cold through the thin fabric of her cloak. "I've got you," he muttered, more to himself than to her. She did not resist as he helped her up. She leaned against him, weak but trusting, and that alone made his chest feel tight in a way he did not like. They walked quickly through service corridors, avoiding main paths. Elias keyed open his quarters and guided her inside. The room was small, clean, and very human. A single bed, a small table, tools stacked neatly along one wall. She stood just inside the doorway, looking around as if she had stepped into another world. "This is yours?" she asked.
"Yeah," Elias said.
"Sorry, it's not much. It is more than I have been allowed," she replied. Elias handed her a blanket from the bed. She took it with careful hands, wrapping it around herself like it might disappear if she let go. "You can sleep there," he said, pointing to the bed. I'll take the chair. Her eyes flicked to the chair, then back to him. No, she said quickly. You offered shelter. You must rest properly. Elias almost laughed. It's fine. She shook her head, a firm motion despite her weakness. I am Sereth, she said. Of the Lume. Elias, he replied. Just Elias. She watched him closely as he adjusted the room temperature and dimmed the lights further. When he turned back, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, blanket pulled tight, her posture careful but less tense. You are not afraid, she said. I am, Elias admitted. Just not of you. That seemed to confuse her more than if he had said nothing. Sereth lay down slowly, like she was expecting the bed to vanish beneath her. When it didn't, she relaxed a little, her breathing evening out. Elias sat in the chair, arms crossed, eyes half closed. He planned to stay awake, just in case. Sometime during the night, he noticed the light. At first, he thought it was a reflection from the corridor. Then he realized it was coming from her. Sereth's skin was glowing, not brightly, not dangerously, just a soft, warm light, like embers under ash. It pulsed gently with her breathing. Elias stood up slowly. Sereth, he whispered. Her eyes opened. When she looked at him, the glow brightened. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock. It has begun, she said. What has? Elias asked. She sat up, staring at her own hands as they shimmered faintly. I did not think it possible, she whispered. Not anymore. Elias felt his heart beat faster. Is this bad? No, she said quickly.
It is impossible.
She looked at him then, really looked at him, like she was seeing him for the first time. You gave me rest, she said, without demand, without fear. I just gave you a bed, Elias replied. She shook her head. You gave me safety. The glow intensified slightly, filling the small room with a calm, steady light. Elias felt something strange settle in his chest, not fear, not excitement, but a deep sense of stillness. Sereth drew the blanket closer, her voice barely above a whisper. In my people's history, she said, this light appears only in the presence of a chosen anchor. An anchor? Elias repeated. Yes, she hesitated. A mate. The word hung in the air between them. Elias opened his mouth, then closed it again. I think, he said carefully, there's been a misunderstanding. Sereth did not look offended. She looked relieved. Then we will speak more when the light settles, she said. For now, may I remain. Elias looked at the glowing alien sitting on his bed, wrapped in his blanket, trusting him with something ancient and fragile. Yeah, he said softly. You can stay. Outside the room, the station drifted on, unaware that something very old had just woken up in a place it was never meant to exist, and that it had chosen a human to do it. Elias did not sleep after that. He sat in the chair near the wall, arms folded, watching the soft glow rise and fall with Sereth's breathing. The light was steady now, no longer flickering like it had at first. It filled the small room without hurting his eyes, turning metal walls warm and gentle, like they belonged to a place that welcomed people instead of holding them. Sereth slept peacefully, her face relaxed in a way it had not been when he first saw her on the dock. Whatever fear had chased her across space seemed quieter now, pushed back by something she did not fully understand. Elias kept telling himself this was temporary, just one night, just helping someone in trouble. Still, every time he thought about asking her to leave, his chest tightened. When the station's morning cycle began, the lights outside the room brightened. Elias stood and stretched, joints stiff from sitting too long. As he moved, Sereth stirred. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly even in the brighter light. You remained, she said softly. Yeah, Elias replied. Didn't think it'd be right to leave you alone. She sat up, blanket sliding from her shoulders. The glow dimmed slightly but did not disappear. It is still active, she murmured, placing a hand over her chest. That is unexpected. Elias rubbed his face. You want to explain what exactly is happening? Because I've helped people before, and none of them started glowing.
A small curve formed at the corner of her mouth. It was not quite a smile, but close.
My people are called the Lume, she said. Long ago, before we traveled the stars, we evolved under constant threat. Predators, storms, scarcity. Safety was rare, so when it appeared, our bodies learned to mark it. Mark it how? By changing, she said. Light is the sign. It means the nervous system has accepted that it may rest. Elias blinked. You're glowing because you feel safe? Yes. He leaned back against the wall. That seems
Extreme. For us it is sacred, she replied.
the light appears only when another being offers protection without control, without expectation.
Elias frowned. I didn't protect you. I just didn't throw you out.
That is more than most, Sereth said quietly. She stood, unsteady at first, then steadier. As she moved closer, the glow around her skin brightened, responding to the distance between them. Elias noticed it immediately. Polite, official. Elias opened it partway. A station officer stood outside, expression neutral. Technician Trent, the officer said. We detected an unusual energy reading from this area. Just need to verify everything's normal? Elias nodded. Probably my equipment. I was testing a personal mod. The officer glanced past him. His eyes widened slightly at the glow. That's new, he said. Before Elias could panic, Sereth stepped forward. She stood straight, glow steady, but soft. I am a registered refugee, she said calmly, under temporary shelter. The officer hesitated. He checked his wrist display, then sighed. Nothing in my system says you shouldn't be here, he admitted.
I'll log it as personal equipment interference.
Elias blinked. Really? The officer shrugged. Energy levels are stable, not a threat, just unusual. He paused, then added, You humans attract weird things. After the door closed, Elias let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. You handled that well, he said. Sereth looked at him with something like awe. You spoke without fear, without dominance. Yeah, well, he said. I hate bullies. The glow brightened again. Elias groaned. You gotta stop doing that every time I say something nice. I cannot, she said softly. The response is automatic. He paced the room. So what happens now? Sereth lowered herself onto the bed. If the bond stabilizes, the light will remain but soften. If it is broken abruptly, she trailed off. That's bad, Elias finished.
Yes. He stopped pacing.
I didn't agree to be anyone's mate, she nodded. I know. Among my people, mate does not mean ownership. It means anchor, choice, shared space. Elias sat across from her, and if I say no, her glow dimmed, but she held his gaze. Then I will accept it, but the loss will hurt. Silence filled the room. Elias thought of the dock, the shaking hands, the way she had collapsed from exhaustion. All I did was give you a place to sleep, he said. And you stayed, she replied. You did not leave when the light appeared. He sighed. I need time. That is acceptable, she said. The terminal chimed again. This time, a message from station administration. External interest, research inquiry. Elias stared at the screen. They're already asking questions, he said. Sereth's voice was steady. Then the galaxy has noticed. He looked at her glowing softly in his small room, trusting him with something ancient and fragile. Well, he said quietly, guess we're in this a bit deeper than I planned. You do not regret it. No, Elias admitted. I really don't. Outside, ships began to arrive at Port Helios. drawn by rumors and signals they did not yet understand. And inside one small human room, a bond continued to grow, not through force or fate, but through simple kindness that refused to disappear. Elias learned very quickly that the station did not forget things. By the third day, Port Helios felt different. Not louder, not more crowded, but more aware. People looked twice at him in the corridors. Some stared openly, others pretended not to. Station messages came more often now, polite on the surface, careful underneath. Sareth noticed it too. She stayed inside his quarters most of the time, sitting near the small table or by the narrow viewport that showed endless stars. The glow around her had changed. It was no longer bright or sudden. It was softer, steady, like a quiet flame that did not need fuel. Elias had stopped jumping every time he saw it. Mostly. "You are adjusting," Sareth said one morning as he made tea. "Your breathing changes less when the light responds." "That's because I'm tired," Elias replied. "And because you're glowing like it's normal. It feels normal," she said. "That concerns me." Elias handed her a cup. She held it carefully, warming her hands. "I don't like that everyone suddenly knows something's happening," Elias said. "And I really don't like that they won't say what." "They are uncertain," Sareth replied. "Uncertainty makes many species curious, and fear makes curiosity sharp." As if summoned by the words, Elias's terminal chimed. "Incoming request. Diplomatic classification."
Elias stared at the screen. That was fast. Sareth set the cup down.
Her glow dimmed slightly, responding to the tension in his body.
"They want to see you," Elias said.
"Not me. You." "Of course," she replied. "I am the anomaly." He clenched his jaw. "You're a person. To them, I am data that woke up." The meeting was scheduled in a public observation room, one of the places designed to make everyone feel watched without feeling threatened. Transparent walls, neutral colors, no weapons, no uniforms. Elias walked beside Sareth through the corridor. The glow followed her like a soft halo. Impossible to hide now. Conversation stopped as they passed, not hostile, just stunned. Inside the room, 3 beings waited. One was human, wearing administrative gray. One was tall and narrow, insect-like, with compound eyes that reflected Sareth's light. The third was something Elias could not easily describe. A shifting shape that seemed to blur at the edges. They all turned as Sareth entered.
"It is active,"
the insect-like one said softly. "By the stars, it is active." The human cleared their throat. "Thank you for coming. I'm Director Halverson. This is a conversation, not an interrogation." Elias sat close to Sareth, not touching. "Close enough." Sareth inclined her head. "I am Sareth of the Lume." The shifting figure leaned forward. "Your species abandoned this response. We recorded it as obsolete." "It was suppressed," Sareth corrected calmly. "Not lost." Director Halverson folded their hands. "Our concern is safety. For you, and for the station." Elias couldn't help himself. "She's not a hazard." The insect-like being's eyes shifted toward him. "You are the human?" "Yeah," Elias said. "That's me. You are the catalyst." Sareth's glow brightened, reacting before she could stop it. "She did not choose me because I am human," Elias said. "She chose me because I didn't treat her like a problem." The room fell quiet. "That," the shifting figure said slowly, "is precisely the issue."
They explained it carefully.
Too carefully. The bond response of the Lume was not just emotional. It was neurological, biological, social. When activated, it strengthened cooperation, reduced fear responses, and increased long-term survival rates. Empires had tried to use it. Failed. It required something that could not be forced. Choice. In most species, Director Halverson said, This kind of open-ended attachment creates instability, unpredictable loyalties. Elias snorted. So does free will. Sereth spoke then, her voice steady. You fear what you cannot measure. The insect-like being tilted its head. We fear contagion. Others may attempt to replicate this. With force, Elias said. Yes, the being replied. The meeting ended without conclusions, only requests, observation, monitoring, time. Back in the quarters, Elias paced. They want to turn you into a case study, he said. A warning label. Sereth sat on the bed, hands folded. They want to make sense of what happened by controlling it. Yes. Elias, stop pacing. If I walk away, does this stop? Sereth looked up at him. Her glow dimmed, but did not vanish.
No, she said gently. It has passed the threshold.
So I already messed up, he muttered. You already chose, she corrected. Days passed. Ships arrived, not warships. Research vessels. Diplomatic envoys, refugees who watched from a distance, hope and fear mixed on their faces. Something strange began to happen. Other Lume aboard the station started to change. Not glowing, not fully, but calmer, less withdrawn. They gathered near Elias's quarters, not speaking, just sitting in shared spaces, breathing easier. The light is not just mine, Sereth said quietly. It is remembered. Elias felt a chill.
You're saying this could spread?
Yes, she said. Not through me. Through you. He stared at her. I didn't do anything special. You stayed, she replied. You listened. You did not demand understanding before offering care. One evening as they watched ships drift past the viewport, Elias finally asked the question that had been pressing on him since the dock. What does mate really mean to you? Sereth was quiet for a long moment. It means I chose you as the place I am not afraid, she said. Not because you are strong, but because you do not ask me to be smaller to remain. Elias swallowed. And what does it mean to you? She asked. He thought of his empty quarters before her. The silence. The routine. The way the station felt less cold now. It means, he said slowly, that if I say I'll stay, I actually mean it. Her glow warmed, gentle and steady. Outside, the galaxy watched. Not because of a weapon, not because of a threat, but because a human had reminded an ancient species, and maybe many others, what safety looked like when it was freely given, and no one knew how to stop that once it began. By the time the fourth week began, Elias no longer believed this would stay small. Port Helios had always been a place people passed through. Now is a place people waited. Ships stayed longer than scheduled. Visitors asked questions that sounded casual but carried weight. Words like cooperation, observation, and cultural impact floated through the corridors like recycled air. Sereth noticed changes before Elias did. The station feels louder, she said one morning, standing near the viewport. Not in sound, in intent. Elias glanced up from his terminal. Yeah, that's called attention. I don't like it either. The glow around her was steady now, a soft presence rather than a surprise. It reacted less sharply to emotion, more like a quiet response to being. Elias had learned to read it the way one reads body language. When it warmed, she felt grounded. When it dimmed, she was thinking carefully. There is pressure forming, she said. They will ask you to choose. He frowned. Choose what? Between being ordinary, she replied, and being useful. Elias closed the terminal. That's not really a choice. It started with invitations. A human cultural liaison requested a discussion about shared values. A research group asked for voluntary interviews. A multi-species council sent a message praising Elias's unique compatibility profile. He ignored most of them. Sereth did not. They are trying to understand you, she said, after reading one message.
You confuse them.
Good, Elias muttered. But the pressure did not fade, it sharpened. One afternoon, a formal request arrived, marked with priority clearance. Elias read it twice, then a third time. "They want you relocated," he said flatly. Sereth's glow flickered. "Where?" "A protected facility, off-station. Supposedly comfortable." She lowered herself onto the bed. "And you?" "They say I can visit," with approval. Silence filled the room. "That is separation," she said softly. "Temporary," Elias replied, though the word felt weak. Sereth looked at him, eyes steady. "For my people. Forced distance during bond stabilization causes loss of trust responses." He stiffened. "Loss? Of the light?" she said. "Of the safety it represents." Elias stood up, pacing. "They can't just take you. They believe they can," she replied. "Because they believe this is larger than us."
He stopped pacing and looked at her.
"Is it?" she considered. "Yes, but that does not mean we are expendable."
The next meeting was not polite.
It was held in a larger chamber with more observers and fewer smiles. Elias sat beside Sereth again, closer this time, not touching but unmistakably aligned. Director Halverson spoke first. "We are not here to take anything from you." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Then don't." The director sighed. "This bond has consequences. Already, refugee populations are showing behavioral shifts, reduced stress, increased cooperation." "That sounds bad to you?" Elias asked. "It is unregulated," the insect-like delegate said. "If humans can trigger this response unintentionally, it alters power dynamics." Sereth spoke calmly. "Safety is not power. It is," the shifting figure replied, "when it cannot be controlled." Elias leaned forward. "You're afraid humans will become walking safe zones." A pause. "Yes," Director Halverson admitted.
Then maybe ask why, Elias said. Instead of trying to lock it up, they proposed compromises.
Monitoring bans, distance thresholds, relocation. Again. Sereth listened, then stood. "My people were taught to believe this response was a weakness," she said, "because others could not command it. You now see it activated by a human not trained, not conditioned, not designed for it." She looked directly at the delegates. "Perhaps the error is not the bond. Perhaps the error is believing safety must be owned." The room was silent. Later, back in the quarters, Elias finally broke. "I didn't ask for this," he said, voice low. "I don't want to be some symbol." Sereth approached him slowly. The glow warmed, gentle, not demanding. "You are not a symbol," she said. "You are a choice. That is why they struggle."
He exhaled. "I'm scared I'll mess this up."
"You already will," she said simply. "So will I."
That surprised a laugh out of him. "You're not very comforting." She tilted her head. "Comfort is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to remain despite it." That night, Elias slept in the bed for the first time since she arrived. Not because she asked, because it felt wrong not to. He stayed on his side. She stayed on hers. The glow filled the space between them like a quiet agreement. No dreams, just rest. The next day, something changed. A group of non-Lume refugees gathered in one of the shared commons. Humans. Tall ones. Small ones. Beings with too many eyes and not enough limbs. They were not protesting. They were talking, sharing food, laughing softly. Station reports showed stress markers dropping across multiple populations. Elias stared at the data. "This is spreading." "Yes," Sereth said. "Not the bond, the permission." Permission to what? To believe safety can exist without cost. That evening, Director Halverson requested one final private conversation. "If we do nothing," the director said, "this will redefine human relations with half the known galaxy." Elias shrugged. "Humans already redefine things by accident." "And if others begin seeking humans out?" Halverson asked. "Not for trade, for refuge." Elias thought of Earth. of crowded cities and open hands, of history repeating itself in new forms.
Then we'll deal with it,
he said, like we always do. Sereth's glow warmed, steady and sure. She did not call him mate that day. She did not need to. The bond had moved past words, and the galaxy, watching closely, began to understand something unsettling. Humanity did not conquer by force. It endured. It stayed, and once it offered safety, it did not take it back. The announcement did not come with alarms or flashing lights. It arrived as a quiet message on every public terminal across Port Helios, written in careful, neutral language. A policy update, a clarification, a pause on forced relocation of bonded individuals, pending further review. Elias read it 3 times before he believed it. They backed off, he said softly. Sereth stood beside him, her glow steady and calm. They stepped back, she corrected. That is different, he smiled faintly. I'll take what I can get. The station felt different again after that, not tense, not crowded with expectation, just lighter. People spoke more openly. Refugees who had once kept to corners now sat in common areas. Laughter appeared where silence used to live. None of it was loud. None of it was dramatic. It was real. Elias returned to work. Slowly at first, he fixed vents, checked seals, did the things he had always done. The difference was that now, people greeted him. Not with awe, not with fear, just with recognition. Sereth began to leave the quarters more often. She walked the corridors at Elias's side, her glow no longer hidden or flaring, just present. Some stared, some bowed their heads slightly. A gesture Elias learned was a sign of respect among several species. Others smiled in ways that felt unsure but hopeful. No one tried to touch her. No one tried to take her. That mattered. One afternoon, they sat together near the large observation window in the central commons. Ships drifted past, slow and quiet. The stars looked closer here, like they were listening.
You have changed, Sereth said. Elias snorted.
You say that like it's a good thing. It is, she replied. You no longer brace yourself when others approach.
He thought about it. She was right. I used to think being invisible was safer, he admitted. Turns out, being present does more. She considered that. For my people, presence is the rarest gift. They sat in silence for a while. Sereth, Elias said eventually, are you still afraid? She did not answer right away. The glow around her softened, warm and even. Yes, she said, but it no longer controls my choices. He nodded. Same. The final meeting happened a week later, not in a chamber. Not behind transparent walls, it happened in the open commons, with anyone allowed to listen. Director Halvorsen stood before a mixed crowd of species and sizes, hands visible, posture relaxed. We were wrong, the director said plainly. We assumed safety must be regulated to be effective. We assumed bonds formed without oversight were risks. Elias felt Sereth's glow warm beside him. We now understand, Halvorsen continued, that this phenomenon is not a tool. It is a response, one that cannot be commanded, only invited. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Humans are not unique because they create this response, the director said. They are unique because they do not try to own it. Elias swallowed. The council has voted, Halvorsen concluded. Bonded individuals will retain full autonomy. Refugees will be granted expanded personal choice of residence, and humans will not be restricted for being who they are. No cheers followed, just a deep, shared breath. Afterward, people approached Elias and Sereth, not all at once, one by one. A Lume elder bowed low, eyes shining. The light remembers, they said. A small, furred trader offered Elias a wrapped snack with trembling hands. For staying, they whispered. A human dock worker clapped him on the shoulder. Didn't know we were built like that, they said with a grin. Elias took it all quietly. That night, back in the quarters, the room felt different again. Not borrowed, not temporary. Home. Sereth sat on the bed, legs folded, glow calm and settled. Elias stood near the viewport, watching a ship depart. You could leave now, he said. They wouldn't stop you. She looked at him. Do you want me to? He turned. No, he said immediately. Then he softened. But I don't want you to stay because of me either. She rose and stood before him, close enough that the glow warmed his skin. I am staying because of myself, she said. You are simply where I am not afraid to be. Elias laughed quietly. You really don't do things the simple way, do you? She tilted her head. Simple does not mean small. He hesitated, then asked the question that had waited patiently between them for weeks. When you call me mate, what do you want from me? She considered carefully. Truth, she said. Presence. The freedom to choose each other each day without obligation. Elias nodded. I can do that. The glow brightened, not suddenly, not dramatically, just enough to feel like a smile. Time passed. Port Helios became known as something new. Not a hub, not a border station, a place of rest. Ships adjusted routes to pass through. Refugees requested transfers, not because they expected miracles, but because they had heard stories. Quiet ones about humans who shared food, who stayed up through the night, who listened without trying to fix everything. Elias and Sereth were no longer alone in this. Other humans formed bonds, not always glowing, not always visible, but felt. The galaxy adapted, slowly and reluctantly, as it always did. One evening, as they walked the long corridor toward the docks, Sereth stopped.
What is it? Elias asked.
She placed a hand over her chest. The glow deepened, rich and steady. The bond has completed its stabilization, she said. He raised an eyebrow.
Is that good? Yes, she replied. It means the light will no longer fade. Elias smiled.
Guess you're stuck glowing then. She smiled back, fully this time. So are you, in your way. They stood together, human and alien, not as symbols or warnings, but as proof. Okay, he said, raising his hands a little. That part is new. Sereth stopped, eyes widening. It reacts to proximity. That sounds not great. She looked down at her hands again, worried now. This should not be possible outside our kind. The bond response is specific. It requires deep, emotional signaling. Well, I don't think I'm sending any signals, Elias said. I'm mostly just confused. Her gaze lifted to meet his. Confusion is not rejection. Before Elias could answer, a soft chime echoed through the room. His terminal lit up. Station notification. Elias's stomach dropped. He crossed the room and checked the screen. Environmental sensors had flagged an unexplained energy fluctuation. Low level. Non-threatening. Localized to his quarters.
They noticed, he muttered.
Who? The station, Elias said. Maybe more than that. Fear rippled through her, and the glow wavered, dimming slightly. Elias felt it, like a pressure change in the room. Hey, he said quickly, you're okay. No one's coming in here yet. But they will, she said. They always do. Elias thought fast. You said you weren't allowed to be seen. Why? Sereth hesitated, then spoke. My people fled our region after our world was stripped of resources by larger powers. We became refugees. Our biology was studied. Our bond response was labeled inefficient, dangerous, too emotional. That's messed up, Elias said. They discouraged it, she continued. Then they regulated it. Then they outlawed it. Elias stared. They outlawed feeling safe? They outlawed forming bonds that could not be controlled. The terminal chimed again. This time, it was a request for a routine check. Elias exhaled slowly. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. You stay calm, I'll talk. You would risk punishment, Sereth said. I risk paperwork, Elias replied. Big difference.
There was a knock at the door.
That safety given freely could change more than laws. It could change hearts. And once that happened, no force in the galaxy could make it go dark again.